Hello, the scene was set and so was the scenery, but against the beautiful backdrop of the Alps, most of stage 17 was one long tracking shot of the Sky train. Only inside the final couple of kilometres was there any kind of action.
Look at Richie Porte go. He's looked very, very strong and is looking to make up time. Is a danger for the podium places at this point.
Oh, now Ugo's now.
A slight sign as well that Bauke Mollema is struggling. The man in second place is falling away. And now Froome responds. Quintana responds. He's on his own now, Chris Froome, and he's trying to reel in Richie Porte.
Look at Richie Porte go. He's the one who's forcing all this damage. Chris Froome's going against Nairo Quintana's quite well.
This is what everybody with podium ambitions and GC ambitions feared might happen today.
So this is Yates is really piling on the pressure now. He realises this is an opportunity for him.
400 metres to go, and Adam Yates attacks Nairo Quintana, and Quintana is struggling once again. There's the white jersey of Yates. He's almost on the wheel of the yellow jersey now. It's a huge effort. There goes Porte over the line. There is Chris Froome. Look together at the same time. Where is Mollema going to finish? Yates comes in third place in the GC race. Disappointing from Nairo Quintana. Time gaps opening up all the way down the climb here. There is Mollema coming in. I think Mollema's going to hang on for now to second place, but he's shown a bit of weakness.
Here's what the first stage in the Alps has done to the standings. Chris Froome's lead over Bauke Mollema is up to 2 minutes 27. Mollema's advantage over Adam Yates is down to 26 seconds. And as well as closing that gap, Yates has added 20 to the 14 he had over Nairo Quintana. Romain Bardet is up to 5th and Richie Porte to 6th at Alejandro Valverde's expense. Fabio Aru overtakes Dan Martin, they're 8th and 9th. Louis Meintjes comes into the top 10 as TJ Van Garderen leaves it for good. And the only man who doesn't believe that the race for the yellow jersey is over is the one wearing it.
It's still far from over. I mean, tomorrow's time trial is going to be quite critical. Richie was really strong today. Showed again why he's one of the best climbers in the world. Yeah, I mean, for me at this point, it really is just about trying to follow those main contenders and just staying out of trouble, really. And I mean, the team did such a great job today. It wasn't an easy start, and to come in today really focused after the rest day, I think they've done such a good job, so big thank you to my teammates today.
A bad day for Nairo Quintana was made an hour longer by the problems he had producing a urine sample for dope control. He was smiling as he got in the team car, but it might have just been relief. Quintana no longer looks like a major threat, even to Bauke Mollema's second place on the podium, but Adam Yates does.
No, I felt good today, other than the heat. And yeah, like I said, the climb kind of suited me. When it's a little bit shorter and a little bit steeper, it suits me a little bit more, so yeah, I was able to gain some seconds. As I said, onto the time trial tomorrow, and hopefully we can do something there.
Let's look at stage 18 then, a 17-kilometre alpine time trial. 4 kilometres of flat off the start ramp in Sallanches, followed by 11 of very variable gradient, before a fast 2-kilometre run down to the finish in Megeve. And it became clear as the early starters began arriving that the speed the riders were carrying off that descent made the final sequence of bends a balancing act between losing momentum and losing control. Oliver Nassen wasn't the only one to get it wrong on this right-hander. Chris Froome would have been well aware of that, having recce'd the course. Now, Thomas de Gendt, Lotto Soudal's former King of the Mountains leader, was the best of the early finishers with a time of 31 minutes 45 seconds. But as we join the race, his time at all 3 intermediate checks has been beaten by the man who won the first time trial of this tour, Tom Dumoulin.
Through 1 kilometre to go for Tom Dumoulin, and it's pretty much all downhill. He's going to set the best time if he stays upright. Of that, there can be little doubt. Thomas de Gendt has set the best time to beat, 31:45. That's the target for Tom Dumoulin. Meters tick down, 700 meters to go, and look at that speed that he's travelling at the moment. 75 kilometers an hour into Megeve. Concentration. He'll be right on the limit going over that final climb. Unorthodox position, but he's got to get his big frame around these little twists and turns and not come to grief as we've seen other riders do. And here he comes, de Gendt's time, 31:45. He's got a minute to get over the line, and still he would post the best time. So Dumoulin, as you would expect, with 200 meters to go, is going to take a big chunk out of what everyone else has achieved so far on this race. He will be the race leader. Will he by the end of the day? It's a probability, but it's not a certainty. The wait will continue for Dumoulin right the way until Chris Froome has crossed the line. But for the moment, 31:04, he has taken... Well, he's taken 41 seconds out of Thomas de Gendt, who set a good time himself, but that is a huge statement once again to the cycling world of just what a talent this man has.
Tom, equipment was important in the last time trial. Equipment was important then. Was it important as well today? You went for your normal time trial bike.
Yes, we were deciding quite much about what we should do. We had all different options, different gears, different wheels, different bikes. It was very difficult, but at the end I think I made the right decision. I just feel really comfortable on the TT bike, and I can stay a long time in the handlebars in the position, and I think that was.
Over the next 2 days of going into the mountains, which is why it's important for Menkes to do a good ride today. And this individual time trial certainly suits his abilities. He's turning out to be a formidable climber. Warren Barguil, risks around. He's a real crazy bike handler, Warren Barguil. He too was sitting high in the overall standings, but over the last couple of days he's lost himself a little bit of time. 30th place for him at 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Just watch the way he throws. He's on a low-profile machine as well, and he's a teammate, by the way, as a reference to Tom Dumoulin. And you can see he's almost lost his number as well. Next rider in the starting house, as we just watch again, this is what happened to Steph Clement. And Steph Clement, who's put some pretty impressive performances out on the course, charging into the finishing straight there with the 5th best time. And just watch the way he goes around this corner. Again, he's actually opted for a normal machine with clip-on aerodynamic bars at the front. And as he comes up to the line, he doesn't feature in any of the positions as he goes through the intermediate time checks until the second time check, where he was 5th at the 3rd time check. And it looks now as if he's just stopped the clock there in 5th on the finishing line as well. Fabio Aru. He's got a standard machine, standard road bike. As we look now into the face here of Richie Porte, this is a very important individual time trial for Porte. He's looking for 12 seconds on Bardet. He's looking for a minute on Quintana and 1.5 minutes on Adam Yates. And on a good day, Richie Porte can do it.
Stop.
You see the gold and green bands on his shoulder there, indicating the fact that he's been a former time trial champion of Australia. He knows how to ride a great individual time trial. I'm just looking at the choice of machine. It's a standard road racing machine with clip-on bars. So obviously Richie Porte is going to bank his time trial here on the uphill part of the course, so we'll get an indication. Good speed though already, 53, 54 kilometers an hour as he rides away over the first 4 kilometers. Again, it's an interesting individual time trial route here today to manage. You've got the fast 4 kilometer straights to begin with, then a mix of uphill at 7-8%, lots of false flat, and then to finish off with a very fast 60-70 kilometer an hour downhill. Still warming up there, Romain Bardet. Bardet sits in 5th place overall. Richie Porte. Well, we'll start to get some indications of how Porte is riding. A little bit further up the road, in fact about 6 minutes further up the road from Richie Porte is Fabio Aru. And Louis Menkes can't be that far away from getting himself up to the first time check.
Well, as we're looking down at Froome underway at the moment and all of the other riders starting to warm up and get ready, this is Romain Bardet. He's going to the start, still sitting in 5th place, best of all of the French riders. His teammates told him about that last bend in the town of Megeve to take it easy around there. I can tell you that Joaquim Rodriguez has gone through that first check in the 3rd best time.
Well, Phil, I think you might just have called Richie Porte Froome again, but don't worry about that. Yeah, but don't worry.
He's not started yet.
Well, he hasn't started. He starts right at the very end. He starts 1 minute before the top of the hour. But those riders, they're so close together when it comes down to the big decisive moments of this Tour de France. I just think that we may well see Richie Porte climbing onto the podium in Paris with Chris Froome when we go down there on Sunday. But the important thing is Richie Porte needs to do a great ride today.
Yes, he does. As we look at the crowds crushing in on Fabio Aru, we go out to Richie Porte. Next man we should see is the start house. The top 5 begin with Bardet, and there he is.
He starts the day with a 12-second advantage in the overall standings on Richie Porte. He's going to have to ride very well, Phil, to defend that.
This is the first target for Richie Porte if he's to climb 1 place in the overall. He's French, best placed. Applauded into the distance. A great bike rider, and he's also showed us some good attacking rides throughout these 2.5 weeks.
He's one of the rare riders to actually go out on the attack and attack Chris Froome and all the other leaders in this race. He's looking for 48 seconds on Nairo Quintana. He's looking for 1:22 on Adam Yates, and he's dreaming of climbing onto the podium. And that's why, Phil, probably he was warming up right until the last 30 to 45 seconds before he climbed into the starting gate.
Now the men that matter are getting onto the road. The next man out of the start house will be Nairo Quintana as he starts towards that house. They are now 3 minutes apart. Meanwhile, not too far away from Quintana is Froome, and he's about 12 minutes from his start.
Richie Porte now makes the right-hander. He's covered 4 kilometres. That's the right-hand bend now to face up to the 2.5-kilometre climb up to the summit of the Côte de Domoncy, and that's where we'll get the first time check on Porte.
It's a good start.
Yes, it's a very good start because on my unofficial watch there, he went through the first 4 kilometres in not much more than about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So obviously riding around about 54 kilometres now, but it's the next part of the course now where the time gaps start to unfold. Porte just crossing the white lines there, by the way, are the timed section of the climb. The climb itself, the Côte de Domoncy, is a remembrance today of the victory of Bernard Hinault in the World Championships for France back in 1980. And the fastest rider on the climb will earn an added little bonus of €5,000 or about $5,500. Colombia are out in force here today because they are waiting for them and Nairo Quintana, 4th overall.
Quintana ready to go. Well, the only other 2 times he's come to the Tour, Chris Froome has been the only man to beat him. This time he goes out of the start house in 4th place, looking for 3:27. The Colombians think he's going to be good.
Well, I'm not surprised. He spent a lot of time and energy, Phil, on his weakness. And to me, his only real weakness has been the individual time trial. He's improved that so much this year with a win just before the Tour.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top.
He got a great cheer.
And he also got a great start. That's a very rapid start. I'm just having a quick look at his machine. He said, and we shouldn't talk about motors in bikes at the moment, but he said leading up to the Tour de France, this new bike that's been built for him was specifically built for him by his sponsor Canyon. He says it feels like a motorbike. He loves it. He's used the study in the wind tunnel to get himself more aerodynamic. His skin suit has been made to measure, so it perfectly fits his body style and his abilities. We talk about him not being good in the individual time trial, Phil, but this time trial suits his abilities. He's a climber. Look at the speed as he comes out of the gates. He's almost, well, 38 miles an hour. That's pretty close to 60 kilometers an hour. That's fast for a man who specializes in the climbs.
And this man has the privilege of chasing him 3 minutes out of the start house, because this is Adam Yates. Look at that crowd now. It's craning their necks here to see the man from Tasmania on Team BMC. He started the climb just over 20 miles an hour was his speed. I can tell you that Fabio Aru has gone through the first check in 4th place.
Yeah, Richie Port has been on the course for 7 minutes and 24 seconds as we go back towards the finishing line, precariously picking his way through this little chicane. You know, that, although I know that Geraint Thomas has not tried a maximum here this afternoon, but that's still a very respectable time by the Welshman. From Cardiff in South Wales, he's come around that corner and he's going to be a very important man to Chris Froome over the next 2 days when we go into the big mountains. 12th time up against Tom Dumoulin, and I wondered if he was just trying a little bit harder than he might have done normally, because theoretically he is also going to represent Great Britain in Rio de Janeiro in the individual time trial, although the final decisions on those spots have not yet been decided. So yes, Tom Dumoulin is the fastest to the top of the climb, 11:42, and in 4th place is Fabio Aru, only 16 seconds down.
They're going to cheer this man for 2 reasons, Paul. 1, because he's such an aggressive bike rider, and 2, because he's a very nice guy and he's French. Back into the start house, Adam Yates now. Never dreamt of finishing on a podium in Paris. He's been 2nd and 3rd in this race almost throughout. So today he must perform.
10 secondes. 5, 4,
Well, the best young rider, he wears the white jersey, has a lead in that competition of more than 3 minutes over the South African rider, Louis Menkes. But you know what, Phil? He's only looking for 26 seconds to move up into 2nd place overall. So that now leaves just 2 riders to climb into the starting gate on this very important individual time trial here at the Tour de France today on stage 18, in between Sallanches in the valley of megeve at the top of the mountain. You get a quick glimpse on the right-hand side there of the original Devil. And the 2 men are Bauke Mollema, starts at 4 minutes to the top of the hour, and he will be followed 3 minutes later by Chris Froome of Great Britain and Sky at 1 minute to the top of the hour. Well, had a very good chance to talk to Movistar. This is the end of the 4-kilometre section. Picks his way around that corner there. Ooh, using all of the road, and now he's onto the part of the course that suits him. Nairo Quintana has finished 2nd on 2 occasions in the Tour de France. He's won the Giro d'Italia. This year he's banked everything. Now this is at the first time check, 10 kilometres in. The time to beat Tom Dumoulin. Dan Martin knows he needs to do a good ride to stay in the top 10 overall, and this is, for the moment, we're still quite a long way to go, but Martin is riding better than I've ever seen him ride in the month of July. And as he comes up to the finishing line there, he knows that he's in reference with some of the best individual time trialists in the world, and the Irishman stops the clock there, 7th best time, 53 seconds off Tom Dumoulin. Right, Richie Port. Still not showing very much at all. He starts, well, he's still a fair way down the climb and riding fairly well.
Well, there's Chris Froome. That was a good time by Dan Martin, going through in 7th place at that first check. Now, tell us about, he's got whatever it is, Paul.
Well, that's actually it's just a towel with a little bit of ice in it. As I said, a lot of these riders warm up dramatically before the start of the event, but they actually want to keep the core body temperature down as much as possible.
Dan Martin conceding 55 seconds, and 7th place he's holding at the 2nd checkpoint. Now, this is Bauke Mollema, 2nd overall in the Tour de France. He's been there before, and then it all went wrong in the time trial. He's underway, the man in white who sits in 2nd place overall. Fabian Cancellara, the great time trialist, who didn't start today, apologised because when he had a teammate in second place, he felt really bad leaving the tour with 2 mountain stages to go, but he felt he needed a rest. Now we are looking at Richie Porte here, 10 kilometres to the go, and he's just gone through with the best time at the first check, 11 minutes and 33 seconds. That is 9 seconds quicker than Tom Dumoulin.
Well, I told you, Phil, that Richie Porte is dreaming of a podium position in Paris, and that's why he's riding so well. We go a little bit further back. Fabio Aru has been riding well too. He's coming up to the second time check at 10 kilometres covered.
Well, Aru holding 5th place at the first check. Let's see how he fares now, because Porte has gone through. So Aru still looking as though he's going steady here. He's giving this his best shot. That's plainly apparent by the way his head's rocking. He slips up the gears there. The clock, it's a long way around this corner before the clock stops. Huge determined effort on his face. This boy's looking to move up the overall. 23 seconds off, and he's come up to second place at this point.
That is an impressive ride by a man not renowned for his time trialing ability, but this is a slightly different course, a slightly different profile here as we go back to Joaquim Rodriguez, and he's coming up to that nasty little chicane on the approach to the finish line.
Well, let's see how he's improved on his way. It wasn't threatening. He dropped down to 5th at the second check. I don't think he's going to tickle the leaderboard now. The last time Joachim will ride in the Tour de France. She heads up towards the line. And he's over the line, 31 of 49, 4th place. So far, so good.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, on bike handling skills, I'll give him points 9 out of 10, because that's the best ride I've seen going through that chicane there, and he currently will sit in 4th place. But there's some fast times now being recorded out on the course, and some of them by this man here, Richie Porte, former time trial champion of Australia. That really does start to put down the foundations of a possible challenge to Tom Dumoulin, and of course all of the other riders ahead of him in the overall standings.
Well, Richie Porte has made the fast start, but can he hold on to it over the top of the Côte? He's got the best time up the Côte de Domancy, which means he earns an extra €5,000 if it stays the best time. In the start house, the last man to take the depart, Chris Froome, won 1 time trial in the Tour de France in his life. Is he going to build on his overall lead today? He looks as though he's trying to rip out of that box.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top.
That crowd was cheering 5 seconds before he left the start house. Let's check in with Jens. Jens.
The really big surprise I noticed, check his rear wheel. He's the only rider using a full-on disc wheel. He is going all in for stage win today. Not only defending his jersey, he wants this win badly. He's choosing the full, fastest, but little riskier option with the disc wheel. He's going fast on the flat. Let's see how the weight comes into play once he hits the mountain.
That's where we're going, over the top of the climb to Kombu. As we look here now at the yellow jersey has settled down.
Well, just having a quick look down. I'm just trying to see, definitely we got confirmation from Jens that he was riding the full disc wheel in the back there. I'm pretty sure he's on a low-profile machine as well. Further up the course at number 41, Roman Bardet. He's riding a standard road machine with clip-on aerodynamic clips in the middle.
He's only gone through, he's lost 30 seconds to Richie Porte on this climb, Paul, Roman Bardet.
Well, that means he's already lost 1 place in the overall standings, because his advantage over Porte at the start of the day was only 12 seconds.
The dream continues for the Australian, but the race isn't finished yet. Richie Porte, we're looking at him now, is up to 5th overall in the Tour de France, but he's got to maintain it. Roman Kreuziger coming in at high speed. He's got a speed wobble on for this corner, looks okay.
Well, I'm not sure, you know, they're going very fast around these corners. He again is on a standard machine with just clip-on bars in the middle. These corners, the little chicane down towards the finishing line, a number of riders early on in the afternoon seriously come unstuck here, and he's safely around that one.
And you'll see the finish now. He's racing for 5th place at the moment. Now he's dropped down to 6th, a bit of a sprint coming in. And it looks like he's just in with the 6th best time there for Kreuziger. After the demise of Contador, we thought he might have been the man to lead the team.
Yes, but as we wait now, everybody is very much out on course. But the man really lighting it up at the first time check is Richie Porte, the fastest man through there to the top of the Côte de Domocy, the home of the World Championships in 1980. Porte faster than the specialist in the individual time trial, Tom Dumoulin, by 9 seconds. 21 seconds faster than Thomas de Gent. Bardet. He's already been overtaken in the overall standings by Richie Porte. He only had that 12-second buffer, but he may well be more interested in the time of Nairo Quintana because he has a deficit of 48 seconds over Nairo Quintana. We'll have to wait till the top of the first climb to see how everybody else is faring. Now, challenging the time of Tom Dumoulin at the second time check. That time to be challenged is 18 minutes and 49 seconds as we look there at Tom Dumoulin's time, and it looks to me, I know it's still an awful long way to go, but look at the face of Porte here. The concentration is there. He knows he's a good time trialist. He knows how to get everything out of his body, and this is a time trial which maybe suits his abilities even more. Cast your mind back to that first time trial we had in the Tour de France. One of the fastest men up the hilly section of the course early on in that time trial was a man you're looking at right here as he goes through. Well, I think he's going to go through with a new best time at kilometre 10 as well as we go through Combloux. 49 is the time he's looking to beat. And it's a little bit too far, I think, for Richie Porte, and he's just slipped away, but that's not important because Tom Dumoulin has lost a lot of time in the overall standings. He's not vying for a position on the podium. Richie Porte is 8 seconds slower than Tom Dumoulin, but look at that face on the Tasmanian. And I tell you what, pretty impressive ride. We missed it at the second time check. Fabio Aru in second place there, so some big times. This is Louis Meintjes.
Well, Richie Porte there reversing his gain into a loss there, Paul. Louis Meintjes coming up to the finish. This looks like a very, very useful time for the youngster, trying to not just maintain his top 10 in the Tour, but if luck's on his side, to go up a place as well.
Well, he started the day just 17 seconds behind Dan Martin, and this looks to me like a very impressive charge to the line, Phil.
Meintjes hits the line with a time of 31.51, a tremendous ride.
That will give him 5th place, but more importantly to the South African, it's the time differences between him and Dan Martin. But also the time also of Fabio Aru, because he was also looking for 32 seconds on Fabio Aru, who's actually posted some pretty rapid times out on the course and has gone through the 3rd time check with the 2nd best time.
Challenging. Richie Porte hasn't come up on the 2nd time check, but I think he was in the reverse there. We're watching Adam Yates now. He's on the climb, waiting for the 1st time check. It's not too far away. Best time here is 11:33, so he's not on that time.
But he's not far off, Phil, I tell you.
Close, yeah.
The time to beat is 11:33 of Richie Porte.
Yates has got to be very careful here. Quintana falling a little bit off the pace of the riders just in front of him, who are behind him in the overall classification.
Adam Yates, Phil, has just gone through that time split with the 3rd best time, just 10 seconds adrift, only 1 second slower than Tom Dumoulin. So that, I have to say, is a serious reference to the British rider's performance.
That's a fantastic performance by Adam Yates. But remember, Richie Porte was best time there, and for some strange reason he's not showing on our computer at the moment, but we think he's dropped into 2nd place, 9 seconds behind Dumoulin.
Well, Chris Froome will come up to the top there just in a few moments after Bauke Mollema, who started 3 minutes ahead of him. But more importantly, it's going to be a huge battle. We could see a massive change, Phil, in the positions between 2nd and 5th overall. Now, all of a sudden, Romain Bardet now is looking at the 2nd time check, and he's put in a fine performance. Bardet, having a quick look, was 10th at the 1st time check. And as he comes up to the second time check, he's labouring a fairly large gear that, but again, it's not really his time reference to Tom Dumoulin, it's his time reference to the other riders who are challenging to go to the podium. And I have to say, I think that's a pretty smart ride by Bardet.
19:20 and counting. He comes up to the line there. 19:23, 33 seconds down. He's settling in.
Well, there's some great battles being done now. There's still now, Phil, a number of riders to come to the first time check, and this is one of them, Chris Froome.
Meanwhile, the arrival of Martin here, this is a very important arrival time for Louis Meintjes here, has just finished. Meintjes is in with a 31:51. That time has gone, so he's gaining time on Dan Martin as they run down to the finish. 17 seconds. If he beats Dan Martin by 17 seconds, he climbs a place today in the Tour de France. It's going to be close, but I think he's about to do. It's going to be very close as he sprints for the line. Desperate moment for Dan. 32:11. Well, I make that too much. He's lost his place in the Tour de France to Louis Meintjes there.
But it will still keep him theoretically in the top 10 in the overall standings. There's going to be a major shuffling, Phil, once again in the standings.
Let's have a look at the checkpoint 1 standings at the moment. Port was best time there. Dumoulin's gone through 9 seconds quicker earlier. Yates is third with 10, and De Gent and Rodriguez make that. That's still the bigger names behind still to come.
Yeah, well, those are big times. But, Phil, I'm getting an unofficial check at the first time check for Nairo Quintana at 12 minutes, 20 seconds. That means he's lost 40 seconds on Richie Porte.
Well, whatever the problem with Nairo Quintana, he is slipping away here, and Romain Bardet is going to shoot at his 4th place overall now. And Simon Yates is going to consolidate his 3rd place at the way the times are running just now. Looking down here at the moment of, did I say Simon? That's his twin brother, Adam Yates. As we continue, this is Bauke Mollema below the helicopter just now. He's also struggling in the time trial. He is again cracking a little bit on the climb here. Richie Porte 11:33, and this is going up towards check number 2, I think. Check number 1 it is, Paul.
No, Adam Yates has gone through the first time check. Bauke Mollema, I think a moment ago, Phil, I saw him actually go through the time check back down to the finishing line. This is Fabio Aru.
This will be a good time because he's been running second all the way at the checks and closing in. Now, he could be very, very... If he had a good last few kilometres, he might snick best time of the day here. Tom Dumoulin better watch out. I'm sure he's watching this. The time to be 31:04. It's just going to fade. Wow, he did well to hold that right-hander because the others didn't. And he kicks again. It's been a great time trial by Fabio Aru. It won't be the best time, but he's fought all the way, and now he sits second.
Well, that was very good. Look at this way. He's just steered his machine around there. And look at the face. He's sprinting for the line as if he was sprinting for the end of a road race stage of the Tour de France here this afternoon. We're getting some rapid times. But I'm just looking, Phil. I'm trying to get the computer to work. I have an awful feeling that Nairo Quintana is not having a great day. We'd heard so much. Well, look at this. The time lost is pretty dramatic. There's no reference to him in the first 15 at the first time check. This is the second time check for Nairo Quintana, and he's already lost a huge chunk of time.
This is turning out to be a very sad Tour de France for Nairo Quintana. He's never attacked the whole race. We were suspected of that, and now today, well, you can never lie in a time trial.
Well, that face, Phil, that normally never tells us anything, I think with the look there up towards the time check was telling us he's not doing too well.
Checkpoint 3 for Richie Porte. He's hanging in there, only 9 seconds slower than Dumoulin. He's pulled back a second on the Dutchman. If he continues to improve towards the finish, and he very often does continue to improve towards the end, it might be a big time there. Chris Froome out on course, check 1. Now this is interesting, and you bet your life Tom Dumoulin's watching this bit, so too Richie Porte, because he's down on both the rides at the moment. Cheers for the Frenchman, Romain Bardet. 4.9 kilometres to go. There will be changes in the overall tonight, a reshuffling of the names on the leaderboard. Times are being lost and gained here.
Well, I've just got a quick time check, Phil, on Bauke Mollema. He went through that time check in 16th place, the first time check out on the road. There's only one more rider to get there.
At checkpoint 1, Port is the best time of our contenders. Yates is at 10 seconds, and Froome is only in 5th place at 23. Mollema is 16th at 35. Quintana in the top 28 at 47 seconds off the pace.
And that is after only 6.5 kilometres. It could be even bigger than that down towards the end. The man doing the best job of all of the contenders this afternoon is Richie Port.
Looking here now as Adam Yates, and he's beating Chris Froome on the road at the moment. He thought he might lose 30 seconds if he was lucky on this stage. He's 10 in front as Dumoulin is the best time here, and Yates is only just over the top of that.
Well, this is going to be, I have to say, I wasn't expecting a really strong ride in the individual time trial by Adam Yates, but you know, when you're leading a competition as he's leading the best young rider competition, it's a source of inspiration, and this is serious inspiration for him as he looks. I mean, he's challenging some of the best time trialists in the world. Tom Dumoulin, we've talked about the fact that he's a favourite for the individual time trial in Rio de Janeiro at the Olympic Games. This is a reference for this youngster.
His face is still one of total concentration here. He's gone through only 40 seconds slower than Tom Dumoulin in 7th place. More importantly, at the moment, he's gaining time on his rivals. Valverde coming home.
Well, Valverde, Phil, started well. He was 8th at the first time check out on the course, but then he started to slip down a bit. He was 10th at the next time check.
Boy, this is going to make interesting reading by the end of what is the shortest stage ever in the Tour de France, as Valverde hits the line now. 12th place for him, and an average speed of 19.7 miles an hour, about 31 kilometers an hour.
Look at his eyes there as he looks up to try and get a glimpse of the time check on the gantry over the finishing line. And still, I have to say, Phil, Richie Port looks very good. The top half of his body has hardly moved, and you can see by the fact he's a slightly smaller built rider to some of the others, so he can become so much more aerodynamic in the middle. 2 kilometers now, it's all downhill, and we're looking at speeds of close to 50 miles an hour for Richie Port.
He's looking for 9 seconds to take the race lead on the day, to win this time trial maybe, as he starts the descent down now. That look on his face, the fact it's still all coming out. Richie Port, I think today, is on fire.
What might give him a slight advantage on this very fast and rapid descent is the fact that he's riding a fairly normal road machine. Now, around those corners towards the end, he can pull back a second here and there against the riders who are using the aerodynamic machines.
He's chasing the time of Tom Dumoulin, 31.04. Dumoulin was ripping through these kilometres in less than 1 minute. If he rips through this kilometre in less than 1 minute, I don't think he can do it, Paul. There's a bit too much time left there. But he's not really worried about Tom Dumoulin. He's worried about the time he's gaining on the men behind him.
Yes, I'm just thinking with that distance of the finish there, he probably would have needed the 1 minute flat to get through these final few corners. So I think he's going to slip away from the time of Tom Dumoulin. But as you said, Phil, that's not what's really important for Richie Port this afternoon. It's his time in relationship to Bardet, Quintana, Yates and his other challengers for a podium position in Paris.
Through the chicanes, the dangerous part of the course, he holds that bike just about steady. Kicks when he can. Clips off the edge of the board. This is the corner. Whoa! Terrific cheer from the crowd here in Megeve. No, it's the next one here.
Well, this is the one. Watch the way he goes round this corner. He's missed the curb nicely. He's right in the middle of the trajectory. He's gone around there quite smoothly.
He's aiming at the time of Aru now, and he's going to have to sprint to equal that time. It's going to be desperately close. Well, they've given him third by tenths of a second, 31.16. But Port, as I say, will just wait and see the way. He is delighted with that time. Let's go out on course, checkpoint 2, and it's bad news in the time trial, as it was the last time. Bauke Mollema was right up at the leaderboard. He is only racing through here, aiming for 12th, 13th. 12th,
he 13th. He could be losing his second position in the overall standings to the young Adam Yates.
Well, we're hearing that they've checked those tenths of a second and they've just upgraded Richie Porte to finishing second on the stage so far.
Well, it's just the way the system works.
At the finishing line, as we watch Bauke Mollema, it's going to look Dumoulin leads by 31.04. Porte is up 12 seconds. Aru is at 12 seconds, split on tenths. De Gent is fourth. Izagirre is fifth.
But those are two contenders, Porte and Aru. Their time is much more important. Chris Froome went through that first time check, Phil, in fifth position, 23 seconds down. The time he's looking to beat is still out of Tom Dumoulin, 18 minutes and 49 seconds. I wonder how he's dosed his effort now over this second portion of the course and whether he's made the right choice of equipment to go to that full disc wheel at the back of his machine.
Only fifth for Chris Froome at the first checkpoint. We'll see how he's fared as we race towards this second checkpoint. It's only 10 kilometres down the road, but it seems an awful long 10K. Let's go further up the road and see Romain Bardet. He's snaking his way down now. At checkpoint 2 at the moment, Dumoulin is still best there. Porte was second, Aru was third. So Porte lost a bit of time to Aru on the run into the finish. Bardet fourth and De Gent fifth. Now we're waiting for the arrival of... Bardet, sorry, we're looking at him right now.
Yes. You know what, though, as he sees the kilometre to go, look at this little tuck position, which has become quite popular in the Tour de France. Will he be touching, Phil, 55 miles an hour?
Well, Bardet is on the descent to the finish, and Chris Froome is on the way up here. As one races to the line, Froome is just hanging on and wants to conserve all of his lead, if he can, in the Tour de France over his rivals. And he's gone through, he's chasing best time. He's got 6 more seconds to get there as Bardet races towards the line. It's going to be a tight one for Chris Froome as he comes up, and he's gone behind the leaderboard. Bardet is coming in. We'll give you Chris Froome as soon as we get it. This is the S's into the finish for Bardet. Has he continued his recovery to the line?
And let's not forget, over the last few stages, Phil, he's proved that he's a very agile bike handler. He's looking for the little chicane there as he leans himself over. Look at the right way round there, misses the curve perfectly, and he's lining up nice and straight into the finishing line.
The French are right to cheer their own here. Tremendous cheer for the arrival of Romain Bardet. 31.25. He's come home with the fourth best time. An exceptional France-inspired performance, that. Now we'll see, because the next man we're interested in is Chris Froome, who's heading up to that second point. Froome is out on the road. We're just waiting to catch up, because I think we're coming through. Chris Froome, checkpoint 2, 6.4 kilometres to go.
Well, I think, Phil, more importantly, there are 4 riders still to come up to the next time check. And, of course, down towards the finishing line, Quintana, Yates, Mollema and Froome are the riders we are really waiting for. There's a little bit of a discrepancy looking at the computer at the moment, but certainly Chris Froome went through the first time check just looking for 23 seconds, and I don't think he'd be too far off the lead of Tom Dumoulin at the second time check out on the course. We're now waiting for those riders to get to checkpoint number 3.
Something's happened with the check on Chris Froome, because he hasn't come through at all just at this moment. We saw one saying he was 3 minutes down. I don't believe that, so we'll have to wait for confirmation of Chris Froome's progress there. This is Bauke Mollema. Started the day 3 minutes in front of Chris Froome on the road. Now heading for his last 5 kilometres of this race as he climbs a gradient here of 10%. We switch now to Adam Yates, who could be second overall in the Tour de France tonight if everything goes according to plan. His plan?
Well, just looking at him here, Phil, strange to look at these average speeds. 7.5 miles an hour for Adam Yates, but that's not really what's important. What's more important is the amount of time that he's starting to put between himself and Bauke Mollema. He was looking for 26 seconds. Through the 13.5 kilometre checkpoint, Richie Porte was 9 seconds down, but look how much faster than he was than Adam Yates, almost 41 seconds.
43 seconds, yeah. And in fact, the 43 seconds, but then Richie slowed on the last segment, so maybe Yates will continue. We'll see. It's certainly a battle of seconds, which all the top riders said it would only be a battle of seconds. But Bauke Mollema is losing that battle at the moment.
In fact,
look at him here, 4.8 kilometres left. He's just going over the last climb before the fast descent to the finish.
In fact, interestingly enough, at the distance, between Yates and Quintana was rather interesting. And in fact, we're just getting verification of the finishing line, and they've just put it back to Fabio Aru in second place, but only by millionths of a second from Richie Porte.
Now in cycling, it's the whole second that counts, and so they're both placed at 12 seconds behind the current leader, Dumoulin. This is the arrival of Nairo Quintana. It is not happy reading here. Everybody loves Nairo Quintana, and the Colombians have come in the thousands to watch him, but at the moment he's racing for 5th, and that's going to slip away, I think, as he continues to this long twist and turn down to the finishing line. Nairo Quintana is losing the Tour de France for sure now. Through the final chicanes here, he's losing an awful lot. Down to 7th now as he comes up towards the line with the top riders still to finish, don't forget. Crosses the line, 9th place, loses 48 seconds to Dumoulin. Made up a little time with a determined drop down, but he's still losing a lot of time there.
Well, that's 49 seconds.
Quintana goes out to the showers, and Chris Froome is on the climb here. 5 kilometers to go. We haven't got... Oh, he's come through with the 3rd best time now on the computer at checkpoint number 2. 10 seconds off the pace of Dumoulin. He's now heading for 3.
Well, he's heading up to the final time check on the course, and that comes 13.5 kilometers in.
Well, Tom Dumoulin must be wondering now, because he said earlier in a tweet he felt the only rider who could beat him if he was on form would be Chris Froome. And Chris Froome is closing in, only 10 seconds behind Dumoulin. He sits there 10 seconds behind the 2nd place, same time as Richie Porte at this point. And both riders ahead of Adam Yates and Bauke Mollema, conceding there almost a minute. And Quintana, well, poor old Nairo is in trouble tonight. Looking a little bit more labouring now, I think. Adam Yates, those legs are beginning to hurt. He's on the last climb of the day here.
Well, he's 23 years of age. He's had a massive weight on his shoulders to defend 3rd place in the overall standings. He may well just be able to take advantage of the descent as he sees the 2 kilometre to go banner. He won't really require that much more energy because it's a very fast descent into Megeve with speeds approaching 100 kilometres an hour by some of the riders who went earlier on.
This is Bauke Mollema, started just 3 minutes ahead on the road of Adam Yates. Still receiving a lot of cheers from the crowd here. They love the cycling, that's for sure.
Well, Mollema was outside the top 15 when he went through the first time check. When he came to the next time check, he climbed up into 13th place. So again, in the individual time trial, it's all about judging your effort over the whole distance of the course. 17 kilometers today to gate. Back here with Adam Yates, and he's looking at the time of Tom Dumoulin. Well, he's just about on it now, and it's going to take him around about a minute to get to the finish line.
The youngster from Bury in Lancashire, which is right in the middle of England, is now showing everybody back home how he can ride a time trial in the Tour de France. I think this will turn out to be an exceptional performance by him as he starts to come in towards the finish now. At checkpoint 3 coming through now, Paul.
Well, as we wait for checkpoint 3, I can just tell you, Phil, that I've had a quick look, and Chris Froome has gone through with the fastest time as we're looking at Adam Yates, 24.48, 22 seconds faster than Richie Porte and 13 seconds faster than Tom Dumoulin.
Well, Yates said he thought he would lose 30 seconds to Chris Froome. He's losing 1 minute and 5 right now. But as I say, he's not aiming at yellow this year in the Tour. He wants to aim at finishing 2nd. He's still looking a little bit quizzical coming round those chicanes, but this is a good time for the white jersey of the Tour de France. His arch rival, he's actually been beaten by Meintjes, his arch rival today, so he has slow Paul over the last half of this course.
Yeah, but maybe more importantly is what is going to be the time of the next man to come in, Bauke Mollema, who he was looking for 26 seconds on, and Bauke Mollema is still out on the course, as too is Chris Froome, who's just gone through with that very fast time of 24.48 at the 3rd and final checkpoint. Now all that's left is what's his time going to be like on the finishing line.
Well, the man who is setting the trend again, he started slowly, he's built up his effort all of the way. And Chris Froome looks about set now to win the time trial and move probably the thick end of 5 minutes ahead in the Tour de France. It was amazing. It appeared he was in trouble at the first check, but he was only 5th best time, 23 seconds off the pace. At the second check, he came 10 seconds off the pace. At the third check, he was 13 seconds ahead of the pace.
And again, Phil, that goes down possibly to the gamble of using that full disc wheel at the rear of his machine, and that disc wheel at the back will give him the advantage once we start to go down the descent, because that makes it so much more aerodynamic at the back end of the machine, and at higher speeds like 50, 60, 70 kilometers an hour, he will get the advantage from that going downhill to the finish.
All of the fans want to see the most wanted jersey in the world of cycling, the maillot jaune. At checkpoint 3, the top riders, Froome has got control of the race. Richie Porte conceding 22 seconds. Yates a minute 5. Quintana a minute 11. Mollema a minute 17. Well, the collapse of Quintana, who knows?
Well, that was
12
seconds pulled back by Adam Yates over Bauke Mollema. It's all going to be down to the descent between those two riders and the difference between second and third place overall tonight.
Yes, 26 seconds splits those two riders, Mollema and Yates. It's going to be a close finish. Yates has finished with 32 minutes and 6 seconds. It could be just on the edge of Yates taking second overall. He's lost a little bit of ground, not to worry, against the African rider, South African rider, Louis Meintjes, because Meintjes a little bit behind Yates in the overall. This is the descent into Megeve. Not a lot you can do about pedalling down this hill into town. Just a little flick of the brakes. Kick when you can, get another second out of it. He's racing for 8th at the moment. Yates finished in 15th place. 1 minute, 2 seconds back of the leader. It's going to be close, it's ticking away. And once it goes, well, he's actually gone a little bit better. Yates took it hard over that last section, that's for sure. 16th place for Bauke Mollema, but I think he'll keep his 2nd place overall.
You can be sure that knocking on the back door will be Adam Yates over the next couple of days. So now, Phil, there's only one rider left to finish this individual time trial today, and it's the man who wears the yellow jersey, Froome, getting into that strange position we saw him adopting to win a stage into Bagnères de Luchon in the Pyrenees, which seems like months ago right now, and he looks extremely comfortable on that machine of his as he clocks up to 1 kilometre to go, and at 29:41 I would think that this man is going to challenge that time of Tom Dumoulin, because he should cover this last kilometre around about 1 minute and 1:05, so that's right on the time of Dumoulin.
The long, quick descent now. I've started my watch just to see if he beats the minute for this descent to the finishing line. 13 seconds ahead of Dumoulin. Dumoulin is waiting there in the hot seat with bated breath. This is the man he feared today. He got himself involved, Dumoulin, in the race for the victory in the Tour de France. Froome wanted this time trial to prove to everybody he was the best. 31:04 is the time of Dumoulin. It's going to be a pretty heavy beating, I think. He's got to keep up right round this corner. Some haven't today.
He's got one more dodgy corner to go around, and this is the one. He approaches it. There's the curb on the inside. He's cornered that perfectly as he lines himself up now, Phil, into the finishing straight. This is going to be a phenomenal time.
31:04 to beat as he comes up towards the line. He's done that in about 1 minute and 1 second for the last kilometre.
Well, that is just on 60 kilometres an hour he went through there. The average time of 20.6 miles an hour. Poor old Tom Dumoulin waited for an awful long time, but Chris Froome already knows that he's got the victory of the stage and extended his lead in the overall standings.
And it meant that Tom Dumoulin had spent a suffocating hour and 40 minutes in an extremely hot seat, only to have to leave it for his team bus instead of the podium. There's the result. Froome the only man to break 31 minutes, with Dumoulin 21 seconds behind him. Fabio Aru and Richie Porte were split by fractions at 33 seconds. Romain Bardet was the last man within a minute of Froome. Louis Meintjes was the next of the top 10 riders overall at 1 minute 8 seconds, 2 seconds ahead of Nairo Quintana. Adam Yates conceded 13 seconds to Quintana after starting strongly and nicked a couple from Bauke Mollema. Dan Martin was 3 seconds behind him. Louis Meintjes actually pulled within 3 minutes of Yates in the Best Young Rider competition today, but only just. Adam should still be signing white jerseys in Paris on Sunday.
Fantastic ride from you today. What was your view of today's performance?
Honestly, a little bit not disappointed, but I was pretty strong in the first time check, and then the legs kind of fell off. I was pulling squares on the big wide road. So yeah, no, I did the best I could, and yeah, like I said, the legs kind of fell off in the last half. But yeah, other than Froome and a couple of the other guys, I didn't lose too much time, and we're in a day closer to Paris, so 2 more days to fight, and yeah, we'll fight for every second.
And Mollema is round about 25 seconds ahead of you. Quintana round about 20 behind you. It's all very tight for the podium now, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've got Richard Porte. He's climbing up fast. If it wasn't for the puncher on one of the early stages, he'd probably be ahead of us now in second place. So yeah, big fight for the podium. And like I said, we'll just take it day by day and fight for every second.
Yeah, I felt much better today, and I think for GC it was a good day for me, especially in the end. I could do a good pace, and it was a really hard time trial.
And your equipment choices were very important today. Are you happy with the choices you made?
Yeah, for sure. I think really thought well about this choice, and yeah, I think it was the best choice for me. You know, I've been training on this bike already. It was a really light bike, close to 6.8 kilos on a mountain TT like this, and still having a good position for climbing. So I think I made the right choice.
Ready to go on the attack tomorrow?
We will see.
Richie, satisfaction, but I imagine also frustration, because you should be much higher in GC than you are.
Yeah, what I mean, it's not much point thinking of that. Got 2 hard days left. You know, I feel good. Got a good team behind me, and you know, it'd be massive for me to finish on the podium. So, you know, I just keep fighting and just see what happens.
2 big stages to come. Just the terrain that you like. Where's it going to happen?
No, I'm not sure. I think you know, it's no secret that I need to take time back somewhere. So I think on paper there's plenty of opportunities tomorrow and then Saturday. So you know, we just take it as it comes. But you know, I'm up for this fight. Just you know, taking it day by day, and I'm feeling good.
Safe to assume that his old team leader is too. Chris Froome took the yellow jersey with his first stage win in Bagnères de Luchon. His second has surely put it beyond question, barring accident. 3 minutes 52 is his advantage over Bauke Mollema now, and 24 seconds Mollema's over Adam Yates. Nairo Quintana is 21 seconds from the podium, and with Romain Bardet at 4:57 and Richie Porte at exactly 5 minutes, there's just 1 minute and 8 seconds between the 5 riders from 2nd to 6th. They'll all be fighting each other now, because no one is close enough or strong enough to take on the race leader.
Chris, congratulations. A brilliant win descending, a brilliant win against the clock. You've been the best climber here, but what we haven't seen from you yet is a stage win in the mountains. What have you got planned for the coming days?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I only looked as far as today. Obviously, there's two more big days to come now. Hopefully, I didn't leave too much out on the road today, but I imagine at this point, I mean, it's 2 days out from Paris. It's just going to be giving it everything we've got now, just these last couple of days to get the job done.
Chris, I imagine you knew every centimetre of today's time trial, and I imagine you know the same of the coming stages. You've reconnoitred them, you know what's coming.
I have. Tomorrow is a very tricky stage, a lot of tricky descents, and there's talk about thunderstorms during the race, so it's definitely going to have to be a stage where we stay right on our game. I mean, of course, it's fantastic that I open up my lead today, but we can't relax now. We can't relax and switch off. We've got to see this through right to the end.